And you see, if there's one thing that you could always use the sun for when you don't have anything to do and you feel a nice breeze, well, of course you gotta get a tan, because why not? I mean, shoot, while I'm out here, might as well. Like, this is definitely gonna be a good look for me, especially by the time I go back to the beach. You know, I've actually had a tan before in like 5 minutes, so, I mean, this right here, this probably feels like nothing on me, but once I flip over, oh yeah, that's definitely gonna make a difference. Hello there, nature viewers. Welcome back to, once again, another amazing episode of Brady's National Geographic. I know that maybe I just, like, you know, posted one, like, I don't know, 1 day ago, but hey, whatever keeps you guys watching during the summer, you know, as long as I keep on getting back on the roll, then that's all that matters. I don't know about you, but right now, I actually feel really great today. Like, you know, after that tan that I just had, I'm really starting to feel it. I'm really gonna see a difference in about, hopefully, another hour. I mean, I've seen that before, so it's not really too much of a big deal. But, I mean, for today, okay, actually, hold on. Let me just share this little side story, but it actually started to rain today. I'm not even joking. Like, literally, this morning, I felt rain coming down. Now it's like, whoa, is this actually legal? Is it legal to have rain in the summer? I know I live in, like, California, and it's like, you know, heat stroke all of a sudden, but, I mean, you know, I wouldn't gonna complain too much about the rain. I mean, heck, I mean, you know, as long as I don't really have to dip in the ice just for too long, then, hey, that's all that really matters for right now. Now, in case you're asking, oh, what planet are we doing it on? I mean, okay, look, I guess technically there are two, but I mean, like, come on, the last one, I kind of want to say, you know, a little bit more stuff, but, you know, it doesn't really align with the 8, and especially this one I'm about to do right now, which I'm surprised that this is the last one, like, you know, out of the main 8. I'm surprised that, you know, we haven't gotten to this one very quickly. I thought that maybe we would at least, you know, I don't know, I was expecting maybe like something like Neptune, Uranus, shoot, maybe even Mercury. I thought that those would probably be like, you know, the last episode, or being close to one of the last episodes, but no, this one right here, Mars. Mars is definitely one to speak on, especially since, you know, there's a lot of countries out there that are trying to do as much as they can to make life on Mars. Even though, like, we've still been studying it for, like, the past, I don't even know how many years, but, you know, we're getting really close. We're getting almost so close to really seeing if we can actually make life happen on Mars. And even the moon, too. I mean, you know, we're trying to just spread that around everywhere. So, it's kind of crazy to see, like, you know, how much we've been able to go. I mean, the more we advance with technology, the more we advance with continuing on life. But hopefully this will work for the better, and, you know, not anything for the worse, though. I mean, I don't want to scare anybody, but if I start hearing that Elon Musk is going to start doing something with Mars, I don't know. I mean, I think we should all run. Okay, now that I've been thinking about it for a while, unlike, you know, our other planned documentaries where we just go right into, like, you know, the studios and just, like, you know, start recording other videos or, like, other photos, I'm not really trying to do that, okay? I'm really actually trying to appreciate this weather right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk and put pictures, you know, overlay like I did with the mosquito video, which you should totally check out, by the way. You know, don't be skipping, okay? I mean, I know that you really been wanting to see me, which is fine, but you should also be watching the previous ones too. So I'm not trying to put you in any rush or anything. But yeah, I'm basically just going to be, you know, talking about a lot of facts and just overlaying them with Mars, just so you can see, like, you know, what different things there are around here. Now, if there's one thing for a fact that you should definitely know about Mars, it's how many similarities it shares between Earth. I mean, that's kind of the reason why we've sent so many machines and built a lot of them over the years, just to send them to Mars to see if life has already been possible, or if maybe we can make it possible ourselves. But that usually just, like, depends, you know. Hopefully maybe in the next 50 or even 100 years, then something like that can actually happen for the better and not for the worse. But like I said, you know, I mean, it mainly just depends on how billionaires choose to use your money, because even when you're rich and famous and you got a lot of money, you still got to be careful on how you use it, because, you know, sometimes you could do something that nobody is not going to appreciate you for. But other than that, there's also a similarity on how you could go to Mars and it would be roughly around the same time as Earth. I mean, technically it's 24.6 hours and not, you know, 24 hours exactly. But if you were to just go on Mars for a day just to see, like, you know, how it feels on there and then come right back, I'm shocked if, like, you know, you would be able to survive that, but you wouldn't really miss too much. You wouldn't believe that despite Venus being, you know, one of the hottest planets in the solar system and having a lot of volcanoes, Mars actually has the tallest volcano and largest in the entire solar system, called Olympus Mons, which is located in Phasis volcanic region and is the colossal shield volcano tower is about 22 kilometers, 14 miles above the whole entire Martian surface. So that's kind of insane coming, you know, from a planet that's identical to Earth. And has Venus B, even though that it has 2 moons also at the same time. Just keep in mind that. Becoming about almost 2.5 times taller than Mount Everest, our tallest mountain here on Earth, and spanning roughly the size of the state of Arizona. The size and footprint is at least 374 miles, 600 kilometers across its massive base. And, its type is a shield volcano, which means that it is built by countless fluid lava flows over billions of years. And despite such a towering height, it actually has a gentle slope averaging about just, 5%. Meaning that if you were to climb this thing, it would feel more like a gradual uphill walk than an actual, sheer mountaineering feat. I'm surprised that words like that actually exist. But yeah, another thing is the summit caldera, which is basically, what lies at the top, which is a massive complex depression, or, the caldera, which is 53 miles, 85 kilometers across and formed by successive magma chambers collapsing after eruptions. If only I could have, concluded that in the blasting volcanoes video. Now, on the other hand of being extremely high, since Mars has the largest volcano in the entire solar system, there's of course being cold, which is where Mars's tiny, irregular shaped moons come into play. Phobos and Deimos. Phobos being the inner moon and Deimos being the outer moon. Both of them discovered in 1877. They're both heavily cratered, tightly locked, and likely formed for capturing asteroids or planetary debris. Phobos is the inner moon, and it orbits circles Mars at a distance of just 3,700 miles and completes an orbit in just 7 hours and 39 minutes. While its key feature is gradually spiraling closer to Mars, and scientists estimate that it will most likely either crash into the planet or shatter into a ring in about 50 million years. But I mean, come on, that's really nothing to take seriously. I mean, the sun is going to explode in 9 billion years, so if that's going to happen, I don't really feel that nervous. Deimos, of course, is the outer moon, which takes much more longer to orbit around than Phobos does. It takes roughly about 30 hours and 18 minutes. And its distance between itself and Mars is 12,500 miles while it circles around. So, it's kind of understandable why. I mean, the inner one obviously is going to go faster. But the key feature about that is that it's more smoother than Phobos, and its craters are often partially filled with loose regolith and dust, which is kind of the reason on why dust storms exist, or I guess you could say dust devils. That actually is a thing on Mars. But because of those 2 moons, that also is the reason on why Mars is actually a cold desert. Yes, despite it having a reddish appearance to itself, the planet is freezing for, specific reasons. I mean, the global temperature around there is negative 63 degrees Celsius or negative 81 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is from the sun, despite it not being far away from the sun, like Uranus and Neptune, which are the ice giants. There's kind of, like I said, a lot of the planets tend to have pairs with themselves. Mars is roughly 1.5 times farther from the sun than Earth is, which means that it receives significantly less solar heat and light. Yeah, despite having a reddish appearance, of course, it's a snowy desert. That's always something to think about. The thin atmosphere is also another thing because it's composed mostly from carbon dioxide, but it's 100 times thinner than Earth and it lacks the density of needing to trap heat inside. And there's no heat retention, which means without an abundance of heat trapping gases like water vapor and any solar energy that reaches the surface, it escapes back into the space almost instantly. To keep speaking on the 2 moons for a minute, because Mars lacks such a strong global magnetic field, it constantly keeps getting bombarded by high levels of dangerous radiation from the sun, which makes a little bit of sense because, I mean, what else would you expect from a cold desert that looks like, is extremely hot from its rare appearance, or red appearance. You can see what I did there a little bit. But yeah, I mean, since there's no form of solar power around, then that's kind of, one of the things that you will want to look out for if you ever were to land on Mars and you didn't really know what dangers there are around you, other than if there was other, possible life forms like aliens, but I'm not going to get too much into that. But, speaking more on the magnetic field, what about a gravitational pull? Well, the thing about that, of course, is that, Mars's gravity is 1/3 of here on Earth. So if you were to go on Mars, then you would be able to jump 3 times as high because, let's say that, your weight was about 100 pounds. Well, then you would weigh about 38 pounds on Mars, which means, you could jump 3 times as high than here on Earth. And that's kind of what creates, the thing that they call the superhero effect. Actually, I should test this out for myself. Here we go. What? Oh my god, I'm actually stuck. I didn't actually think this would happen though. Honestly, this is a great view from up here. Maybe I can finish the episode from up here. Nah, don't worry, I'm gonna get you down. Just hold still. Just hold still. Oh! Whoa. Ah! Definitely do not try that at home. That's why I'm always the experiment, guy over here. Why do I do this to myself? So now it's time to wrap this up by answering the most important question. Is it actually possible to have life on Mars? Well, sadly, no, it's not. it's literally impossible to even give birth to, because the environment is dangerously hostile to human reproduction to ever happen. And the only real things that have ever touched Mars are robotic landers, rovers, and a helicopter that has been on Mars, which probably didn't even carry people, because I mean, come on, it's not like, you know, you could actually get a real helicopter and fly all the way to Mars. I mean, if you could, I mean, hey, I'd be surprised to see that, but no, it's not actually happening at all. Some of the biggest reasons to why, you know, it's not possible, which basically cover what we just talked about already, is of course lethal radiation exposure, since it damages DNA from being able to replicate, and low gravity, which can cause actual bone loss. You know, while it can be fun to jump around over there, it's not really actually possible to, you know, carry a baby to term without suffering extreme muscle and bone loss. And delivery complications can happen from a natural childbirth because it requires an incredible amount of effort, but astronauts that live in low gravity environments can experience, you know, like I said, rapid bone density loss. And this also makes standard birth highly risky due to the increased chance of pelvic fractures, which means that a safe birth would likely have to be performed in a C-section in a resource-strained remote setting. So yeah, with all this, you know, gathered here, it's not possible to give life on Mars, and it's not possible to, you know, to even step foot on Mars, probably. I don't really know. I mean, maybe in the future, you know, if we could ever find a way to actually make that happen, then, like I said, you know, I would definitely be down to see that. I'm not trying to risk myself to go over there, but I'm just saying, like, you know, it would be great. Overall, though, while I can't really technically say that this is the final planned documentary ever, and, you know, space documentary also, too, but, you know, for now, you just really got to think about how NASA has really put in this much amount of effort to keep on going and, you know, getting new studies more and more over the amount of years to see, you know, how close are we to actually making something new happen, you know, something that has never been done before or discovered before. So it's always interesting to see, you know, what NASA can do, and how the amount of people that keep on going in and, you know, keep on joining, you know, they're into aerospace dynamics and everything, then it's all just interesting. Now, like, you know, if you chat GPT your way into that, all I can say is, like, you know, once you meet your fate with a black hole, there's no way you're going to survive that, but you should have read the manual. But hey, if you're somebody who's watching this and you're a part of NASA, I really enjoyed your Artemis 2 adventure, and I wish you best on your Artemis 3, because I know that was definitely a great discovery, you know, seeing that you guys were actually able to capture a real eclipse from space. I know iPhones could work, but I didn't know that they were, you know, that intelligent. So hey, maybe I'll do an episode on Artemis 3, or, you know, a review on 2, or just anything. I'll do one on Artemis 2, though, because I really appreciate you guys going through that. And, you know, one last thing, I know that, you know, life isn't possible on Mars, and the reason why also could be that, you know, Mars is kind of much more smaller than Earth is, and it's kind of, you know, the second smallest planet in the solar system. You probably would have thought that maybe it might have been Venus, but no, it actually is Mars. Mercury is always going to be the smallest, though. You're always a low bro. And also, one more last thing, I know I keep saying that, but just keep this in mind. This is a picture of Earth from, like, you know, back in the day, and this was a picture of Mars in back in the day. So, yeah, just keep that in question. Well, thank you guys so much for enjoying today's episode of Brady's National Geographic. This really was a great way to do a planned documentary instead of, you know, having to go inside and record all this instead and have to make a whole script. I mean, I still had to, but, you know, you get the whole picture, though. And this really was a great way to still show off, you know, this beautiful weather that I have right now. I'm technically recording this on a different day, but hey, no matter what, I still really enjoy this either way. And, you know, I definitely did enjoy this because of my tan. You can't see it now because it wore off, but it was good while it lasted, so that's at least something. Make sure to subscribe to National Geographic Official, our channel, so we can make it grow more. Follow our TikTok, since that's where most of our shorts come from, even though that it's kind of remained the same for the last 2 years, so I don't know why I actually choose to promote that, but unlike the, you know, cameraman's Instagram, you know, follow that for whatever reason. With that said, I suck at endings, and happy Independence Week. Yes, I'm saying Independence Week because they're going to be blasting fireworks this whole time. It's going to be impossible for me to sleep, but hey, if it's impossible for me to sleep, then that only means more National Geographic episodes. But I'll talk to you soon. Bye!